Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Leadership Lounge. We are powered by TDL and we're creating a community of like-minded people focused on their future leadership journeys. And we're going to be speaking to amazing people with amazing stories and experts in their field. So if you haven't already, and that sounds like you need a little bit of this, make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel if you're watching us. And if you're listening to us on your podcast provider, make sure you hit follow. So today we are speaking to Ian. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. Right, it sounds like you've done that before.
Yeah, I have. It changes every now and again. I didn't want to do the pre-recorded version, but it changes every now and again. But it suits. So, and with the new version, we're only a couple of episodes into the new one, so I'm surprised that I've not had to re-record having said #leadership. What's on your mind? So every time I'm pleased when I've done it. So Ian, we've only recently met. I was really intrigued with your offering as a business, what you do, because it's very future focused with us going into the tech world as well. And we've caught up, and I just really like to have good people on the podcast. So you tick several boxes. So Ian, without further ado, as I hit the 20-minute timer, introduce yourself to the people who don't know who you are and tell us a little bit about what you do and how you do it.
So I'm Ian Dibb, CEO and founder of Keylu. So Keylu is the platform that helps you get your life organised for yourself in the here and now. And should something ever happen to you, it gives all the information to your loved ones at a time they need it the most. Sadly, I lost my sister and mother within a 2-year period. And it was during this time you realised that actually this one thing which is guaranteed to happen to all of us is the one thing we failed to plan for. So our goal is, excuse me, to help you to look at where you are in life, where all your information is kept, can you access it when you need it the most, and would your loved ones be able to find it should something happen to you? So yeah, that's us at Keylu.
Yeah. So how did you get to that? What's your story before Keylu?
Yeah, so my background's always been in kind of business development and sales. Just so I was 28 when my sister passed away, 30 when I lost my mum. And you're just given these junctions in life, I guess, that you can either get swallowed up by the overwhelming grief of something and just give into it, or you go, actually, this is horrendous and I need to change it. So my journey has not been a straightforward one. It's been a one of learning and changing and pivoting to get to where we are today. But it's been a journey that we've been joined by some incredible people. And I think for me, that's been half the excitement of what we're doing, really.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking then, how many times do you hear these really great stories of businesses that have come out of, I'm going to say gap in the market, but that person had a need, or you saw there was a letdown of a requirement of something. And obviously you fit into that category, don't you? There was a need for something. And especially with the modern world and the technology capabilities, do you still feel, and again, this is something we're having conversations about at the minute, that there is still a percentage of the population that aren't in the future tech focus mindset? Where are you with that as a business? So how do you come across that a lot?
Yeah, so I think, as you know, there's these crucible moments in your life which define where you go. And a lot of the people who you see in leadership roles have actually had one of these moments. It's very rare you're going through life and just have an idea and you go, okay, this is what I want to do. So a lot of people have been touched by something that has given them actually, if I don't do anything else, but I achieve that, then that's enough. And for me and the team at Keylu, we are all driven to change people's lives for the better, working with great organizations along the way. But we're constantly looking at how Keylu can develop to make your life easier. And we are busy people. We're all working far more. Husbands and wives and partners are all working far more. We've got far more stuff digitally stored. And we just think, actually, if we can make that journey easier for you, if we can automate the process of actually keeping your affairs in order for you now, it's fantastic. Because if I was to ask you, do you know where your will is, where your life insurance policy is, when your MOT is due, I'm
starting to sweat a little bit.
most people are like yourself, though. Most people go, kind of. But actually, so our goal really is to embrace technology, embrace security, but make your life easier on a day-to-day basis. And for me and the team, that's huge. But we do also have to look where we are now, where we are in 12 months, where we are in 24 months. embracing that leading technology that can make the journey of life organization and life management easier. So yeah, we're constantly looking ahead.
I love that, because again, I was just thinking then there's several different stories I've heard in my journey of business development and just interest, where you hear of these tech solutions that have, the latest one I heard, and I won't tell the details, but they changed a process that took 2 weeks down to 3 minutes.
Wow.
And I was just like, that is brilliant. Imagine the time and the effort and even like the stress and like the people save on that, just integrating. And I think the US government did a great one about immigration, and you had to at one stage fill 22 or 21 pieces of paper out. And then they changed it. I think they got Google and Facebook in, and they ended up, you had to fill out 2 online forms, and it was all done. It went to the relevant people. They signed the relevant boxes. But that's the world that you're in, isn't it? Having that, why are we doing something so complicated and so many people involved where we can do it so simply?
Yeah, and it's just having a 360 view on where you are in life. So I'm married. I've got a 10-year-old daughter, a 20-year-old stepson. I own a house. I have mortgages. I have, it's actually, how easy is it to manage that? And it should be really, but we've now gone digital. Instead of sending documents to the post, we fire it to an email account. How many email accounts have we got? How do we access it? So although we feel like this technological and digital age is superb, actually it's making life harder if we don't manage it properly. But there's also the ability of what can you do as a company? You can't build everything. So for our goal at Keylu is actually to work with organizations that specialize, finding companies that are making a difference, bolt them into Keylu, and actually that makes your and our members' lives far easier, while also enhancing what we're doing and changing people's lives, and not only in the UK but kind of internationally as well. This is a global issue.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly, and that's what we chatted about when we caught up a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? About the global and scalability of this. It's pretty phenomenal, and the journey that you're on is exciting, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Let me pick up on one thing you mentioned then that we sort of chatted about just before we jumped on, and I can definitely resonate with, and I know a lot of listeners will resonate with this, is family. Okay, so whether it's sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, just family, and then being a CEO of a business. How's that been for you?
It's challenging. It's challenging. It's always challenging. But I kind of think that I've spoken to a lot of people on my journey, some from Uber CEOs that most people would know. And one of the things I always hear is, actually, if I had my time again, I'd make sure I spent more time with my family. So that's always been in the back of my mind. And yes, success is hugely important to us, but actually not the deficit of not seeing my children. So I'm lucky I've got a very supportive wife. So sometimes I work long hours, I'm often away traveling, but my wife is always there for my daughter. So it is finding that balance between working all the hours God gives you to achieving, and then actually not seeing your kids growing up. So yes, it's hard. But actually, by having a very supportive team, which means if I do need to take some time off, I've got a team that can step into my position. So yeah, there's no easy answer to it. There are going to be times where you don't see your friends, you miss birthday parties, etc. But actually, our goal within Keylu is actually to get to the point where we will have more time with our family. And yeah, it's a difficult one, and the answer isn't the same for everyone. It's, as you probably know.
Yeah, do you know what I've battled with is the fact, battle's maybe a strong word, but kind of, I think I'm doing a lot better than I know that people who've given me the advice, if that makes sense. So some people within our family say that obviously having our children is like grandparents. It's a good thing, because when they were our age, they were working and developing their business, and to be able to enjoy time with our kids and have really good relationships with their kids as well, don't get me wrong. But I kind of think, well, I'm sort of doing it better than I've seen other people. But at the same time, my children don't have any comparison, whereas I have some comparison, knowing that I'm able to take them to school, pick them up. I've got quite a lot of flexibility. But we're working from home and using your phone, glued to your phone all the time, and we're saying about screen time. That's a big conversation in our family. Like, how do you explain that one? We go on.
Sorry, I was going to say you're 100% right. The phones are our best friends and worst enemies. And the guilt I felt on a few occasions where I'd come home after a long day and then I'm answering emails on my phone and my daughters come in and say, Dad, just put it down.
Mm.
And honestly, otherwise you could quite happily work 24/7 with this modern technology. But actually the guilt I felt when Alice walked in and said, Dad, just turn the phone off, just turn the phone off.
Yeah.
And now and I've got to be careful because now she's getting older and she's going to want to spend less time with me because she's got her friends. So
Yeah.
it's actually so turning your phone off is one of the key things when you get home, as you probably now know, Stuart.
Yeah, I think with all this promotion of tech and time on, I think it's really useful. But I think to have that control is a big word, isn't it? Have that control. And do you know what? This might be useful for the audience. We started from a very early age having conversations with ours. Our eldest is 12, youngest is 5. And I'm really transparent with the fact that I'm not on my phone just scrolling and surfing the internet and doing aimless stuff. Like, I'm using my technology to work. Like, that's my business. So they know the difference between something that goes to work and I'm able to do my work. I'm privileged enough to be able to do my work wherever, and they have it. And I've said to them, if you're doing something productive and you're learning something, or you're my eldest had a little go at running his own car washing business last summer. I said, well, that's an example. If you're replying to emails, if you're sending our family, thank you for using me as a car washer, and I was giving him that customer journey thing. So that's fine. Like, it's the same as mummy runs her business off her phone and our computer. So it's having that conversation. And how much can we relate to that in leadership? Having a conversation about what's happening and when and why and all that. So yeah, that might help the audience. Who knows?
It's difficult.
Leadership. So how has leadership played a part in your journey so far?
Yeah, it's a journey, and I think that's the key thing. No one is born a leader. A lot of people when they start have that kind of imposter syndrome. Is I'm not good enough. I shouldn't be the leader. But actually, it's by surrounding yourself with people who will lift you, support you, provide guidance when necessary. So we've done a lot of learning along the way. But actually, I surround myself with amazing mentors that actually can coach and guide and give you that experience that you might not have when you start with. So we've got probably a lot of shared connections. And when you speak to these individuals, you realize that leadership is something you develop. You're not necessarily born with. And even if you are born with it, actually, you can develop it further. And I think by being someone that people can talk to, people can listen to, people will actually, you take their advice on board as well. Helps you to become that leader you want to be. If I look back at myself 10 years ago and I look at myself now, sometimes we judge ourselves on leaders we look up to, like, let's say, like Elon, and you go, oh, he's the best leader out there. And then you turn back to yourself and you look at people at the start of the journey. We always judge ourselves against the Ubers, not the people starting. So I always like to step back, look at people at the start of their journey and actually spend time with them. And it realizes, it teaches you how much you've learned. Yeah. You know, that's the key thing.
I like that. So are you a leader?
Yeah, I've always, no matter what I'm doing, whether it's social, whether it's work, whether, you know, I'll always step into a position and go, actually, I want to take control of this. It's just who I am, you know, no matter what. I've always done that.
My next question was, where's that come from? Like, how previously in the earlier stages of the podcast, we were saying about what's your earliest memory of leadership? Like, where are those foundations built? Like, how far can you go back? Where do they come from?
I think pretty much I'm quite an extrovert, and this might sound bad, but as a kid I used to like being the center of attention. I was always the joker in the crowd, and you know, I was always that individual. And I think once you've got that confidence to step out and not worry about making a fool of yourself, that gives you the ability to then step up and say, look, I might not know everything, but I'm willing to take a chance. And I think if we don't get this organized, it's not going to happen. So whether it's in social or work, you know, I'm quite happy to stand up there and say, well, if somebody doesn't lead, we're going nowhere. And I'm quite happy to actually go along the way and give it my best shot with the support of the people around me. And I think that's one of the key things, that whether you're doing something at your local church, whether you're doing something in business, as long as you've got the support of people to allow you to lead, I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. What have you learned about, like, obviously people make such an element of our lives. You've said about supportive people, people you surround yourself with. What have you learned from the people on your journey to make you who you are today?
I think one of the things, the key thing is most people want you to succeed. And people are quite happy to stand behind and support a leader who, one, they like, but two, who has the vision and mission they want to follow. So it's creating that kind of tribe of individuals around you that all have the same vision. And a lot of people don't want to be leaders. A lot of people actually don't want to be that individual. So when they do find someone that they have those shared values with, they quite often want to push that individual as far as they can with them, rather than going, okay, you're the leader, you make all the decisions. Yes, that is the end. You have to make that final call. But if you've got a team around you that go, okay, I understand why you're making this decision. I think it's the right one. Let's do this together. That makes that leader's job so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know, I've just written down comfort zone. So what would you say? Like, give us a picture of like where your comfort zone as a leader is. Obviously, day to day, like when everything's great and you're leading and developing the company. But then, can you give us an example of when you were at high end stretch, like you were completely out of your comfort zone? Why? What does that look like? How did you come out of it? What made you go into your comfort zone? Because when you're at the edges of your comfort zone, you potentially are becoming a leader that you're not comfortable with, or you're having to be different traits, behaviors, etc. Can you give us on that? I know you've had a great journey and there's probably several things you can go to where you've been stretched, but what does that look like?
Yeah, I think I'm a non-tech CEO. So we have a team around us, and my co-founder, Sean and Sarah. Sean, very tech. Sarah works for me on operations. We're constantly being stretched. I don't think for the last 4 or 5 years I've been in what's called a comfort zone. So so we've done a couple of rounds of investment. We've got some amazing opportunities at the company, not only in the UK but internationally. So just when you think you're getting into a comfort zone, something comes along and then stretches you again and pushes you and challenges you. So yeah, I can honestly say that we haven't been in a comfort zone, because we are constantly learning, developing, scaling, pivoting as an organization. But I think that's where you're made. If you start going into a comfort zone, you kind of just you kind of stay where you are. I love to be challenged, and if I am challenged, what I do is I find an individual in that sector who knows far more than me and say, look, can I have a couple of hours of your time? We're going into this area. With any feedback would be amazing. So that when you are stretched and challenged, find people in that sector who know more than you, to raise your comfort zone. It's about increasing your comfort zone more than anything else.
Yeah, I love that, and I can resonate. I'm smiling here as you're talking. I can resonate with that so much, because I think you are further down the line than I am. But I know. Can you remember? Here's a question. So, do you remember back, probably several years ago for you now, when it started to feel? Because I think I'm just past this, where there are so many challenges. You start questioning, don't you? Like, what am I doing this for? Is there an easier option just to go and do something else? Like, I think everybody can resonate with that, can't they? I think I've just got to where you are now, but you've been there longer. Like, I love a challenge. I love that kind of, well, it wasn't meant to be easy, but then obviously I had to go through the pandemic quite early on in my business, when it was like, this is rubbish. Like, this is where you developed, aren't you, as a entrepreneur, CEO, whatever you want to call it. Can you remember back then when it was kind of like really challenging?
Yeah, there's always challenges. So, and we've got some amazing mentors, and you say, oh, when does it get easy? And it never gets easy, because then there'll be another challenge. You go, okay, we've got amazing. We're in the UK. We're like the #1 platform out there. Then all of a sudden you go, well, how do we get into India? So that's another challenge. You're constantly faced with challenge. And I was thinking, okay, there's going to be a point where I wake up and this is easy. But yeah, what it is actually those tasks that were once difficult become easy. So then you set yourself new tasks, new challenges, new goals. But yeah, I've often said, and the team, we're sat there as a team and saying, this is difficult sometimes, and it would be far easier to get up in the morning, go and be employed by one of these big tech companies doing exactly the same thing. But actually, that doesn't give you the same reward as what you get when you sign a new partnership where you change somebody's life or something incredible happens. When I look back at where I wanted to be in 2019, when we raised the first round of investment, to where we are today, I'm blown away by how much we've achieved. And I wouldn't have dreamed we'd done that. So sometimes writing down your goals for the next year, and then when you look back the following year, when you've achieved them and succeeded, or some of them have changed, that's huge, because we beat ourselves up. And it's a journey of learning. But I think one of the key things is wrap yourself around with people who support you, but find a mentor who's been there and done it, who can give you some time to help you through the process. I think that's going back to, if I'd have started again, would be I'd have done that a lot earlier than I did.
Fantastic. We've got a minute left. How do you look after yourself, and how do you keep yourself developing and learning and pushing forward? You mentioned obviously people around you, but is there anything else that you do to sort of keep yourself sharp and developing and keeping focused?
Yeah, so I spend a lot of time reading or using Audible, so leadership books. Where we live down in the southwest, down in Cornwall, so we get a lot of time when we're out walking with the dog, and the technology stays at home. So when we're out, we're walking with down tools, spending time with family. But so I just spend time with people. We've actually signed up to a kind of leadership program, so constantly developing ourselves, wrapping ourselves with people, downing tools, spending quality time with your family is vital. So we try and do as much as we can around that.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much. A great way to finish the podcast. Ian, thank you so much for your time. Guys, all Ian's links for himself and his business are in the show notes, so make sure you go and check out Keylu. It's a phenomenal platform, and you'll probably hear me talk about it a lot more on my social medias across the next few years with the development. We're definitely going to stay in touch. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on your podcast provider. And as ever, having heard that episode, what were your key takeaways? What can you resonate with? And what can you sort of project forward for your future leadership journey? So Ian, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me on.
No worries at all. And ladies and gents, we'll see you next week, 6 a.m. Wednesday, with great people sharing their stories and expertise. Take care. Bye.